Welcome to Living the Music, where we unpack life lessons from classic songs. Today we're going to look at one piece of a lyric from one song from this classic album by the band Neutral Milk Hotel. This came out in 1998. It's gone on to be a famous indie classic, written by a gentleman named Jeff Mangum. This is his crowning masterpiece. He basically hasn't released any new work since this album. We'll get into why that may be in a little bit. The song we're going to look at is called "O Comely." Now, this is an 8-minute song with tons of lyrics, lots of poetry going on. We're just going to take one little section and unpack it a little bit. Now, to bring some context to this, Jeff has said that he was somewhat inspired by reading the Diary of Anne Frank when he was a younger man. I can relate to this. I can't remember exactly when I read that. It wasn't in school, but I think I got into it somewhere in my mid to late 20s. And like with Jeff, it did strike me quite hard. It's an amazing piece of literature from quite a young girl at the time, and she just lets it all out. It was a diary, and she gave herself a lot of freedom to just share whatever was going on. Of course, Anne Frank was in hiding in Amsterdam, hiding from the Nazis, and terribly, tragically, unfortunately, she was eventually rounded up and taken to a concentration camp where she perished along with her sister and her mother. She had left her diary in the upstairs annex where she was staying with her family before she was taken. One of their supporters found it and gave it to her father, who happened to survive the Holocaust. He did a little bit of editing and released it, and it became a sensation. And it's one of the best-selling nonfiction books of all time. I think I heard it was just under the Bible, really, as just continuing to sell and sell and sell. You put it all together, and it's a unique piece of literature, an all-time classic, must reading, in my opinion, for really any human being, and well worth it. And it's the kind of thing, like any classic literature, you read it once, but it stays with you for a lifetime. I don't have Anne's book with me right here, but I do have this book by Melissa Mueller. I did read this some time ago. This is an updated version, and she calls it the biography. So she gives a lot of details about Anne's life before, during, and after her hiding in Amsterdam. Okay, so now to this song and what we can take from it in terms of life lessons. As I say, I'm just going to go to one section of this song where Jeff sings about, "I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother and 500 families," etc., etc. And then he says, "I wish I could save her in some sort of time machine." Now, apparently, Jeff has admitted that he indeed had a dream where he did go back in a time machine and saved Anne and her sister and mother. Well, what to say about this? Number one, I have a lot of respect for Jeff and his artistry. And I especially enjoy his vulnerability and openness. So first of all, he had to open himself emotionally to Anne and her struggles and ultimately her tragic end. I think a lot of people, when they read literature, they watch movies, poetry, whatever it may be, can be tempted to read in a purely critical eye, and therefore, once removed, say, from the emotion of what could be evoked if you opened yourself to it. And that's not to say that you should never have a critical eye. I mean, that's perfectly your prerogative, and it's a perfectly valid way to take in art. However, I do think it would be unfortunate if any of us closed off the vulnerability and openness to receive the art at, let's say, the emotional level in which the artist intended it, and let some of their openness and vulnerability crack open our own heart, crack open our own spirit, if you will, and allow ourselves to be touched. Now, when we do allow ourselves to be touched by art or indeed life itself, of course, it can hurt. There can be sadness, there can be deep pain. Well, to me, that just deepens our experience of life, and it's a necessary part of everyday living to open oneself to that kind of pain. And to me, pain and love are inextricably connected. I'm not sure you can have one without the other. Probably it's a quite superficial love if it's without any kind of deepness or depth, excuse me. And that depth includes pain. And I think it's pain, if for nothing else, the existential reality that everything we do love is not going to last. Because, of course, we're not going to last. Everything crumbles in the end. Whatever happens in the spiritual world in the ever after, who knows? But as far as our ego lives on earth, everything's going to end. We're going to end. And so that brings a certain depth to every moment, and every loss is in that sense a permanent loss, and that can strike us quite deeply. I can remember so many times with my two sons growing up. Of course, we had so many fun times together, but there would be moments we'd be having a fun time, maybe playing in the backyard or watching my son at Little League, or whatever it may be. And the thought would strike me, wow, this isn't going to last. They're going to grow up. They're not going to be my little boy, forever. And ultimately, I won't be around forever to see them through the rest of, the fullness of their life. So that can hurt. It brings a poignancy to the moment, and it tugs at your heart. But again, I think that's what makes life so spectacular, and that's what makes love of anyone or anything so beautiful, is that it has that depth to it. So what can we take from this, and from Jeff and from Anne, is the very idea of being willing to be vulnerable, being willing to be open, and let life strike us and touch us. Now, the other addendum to this is that if you're in pain, if any of us are in pain, there's many ways to deal with that, of course, but one that I think sometimes is not utilized as much as it could be is art itself. Now, yes, there's consuming art, and that's always available in many forms and can help us through many a painful situation. But there's also making art, putting your pain into some kind of self-expression. Now, do you have to be a world-class artist like Jeff Mangum, or what turned out to be a world-class writer like Anne Frank? No. You just be you. Just do you. It's not about the absolute quality of the work. It's about putting yourself into it and putting your pain into it. And through that, you heal yourself. So whether it's through your own form of poetry, or it could be dancing, or collage, or photography, or whatever the case may be, I encourage all of us to think about putting our pain into art, and through that, bringing more healing to ourselves. And then, of course, if we choose to share that art with others, they possibly get some benefit and some healing out of that for themselves as well. So there you have it. That's my take on this song, or at least that part of the song. Very interesting, very powerful stuff. Thank you for listening. If this has been of any value to you or of any interest, please hit the like button. Please subscribe to the channel, and please give us a comment below. Let us know what you think about any of this. Until the next video, please take care.